everybody. I'm back again. This is Dr. Elsie Coe. I'm with Lead Physicians, an online leadership course for physicians by physicians. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Mark. Hey, Mark, how are you doing? Mark
Hey,
Weisman.
how's it going, Elsie? Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, great to have you here. He's from Salisbury, Maryland. He's the Chief Medical Information Officer out of Peninsula Regional, and he is double board certified in internal medicine and informatics. He has great expertise in the EPIC system. He's great with being a leader and has a lot of rich talks regarding leadership. So I'm just so happy to have him here today. One other thing, I was happy to be on his podcast too, and I've heard some of his podcasts. I highly recommend you go and check it out. Thank you so much for being here again, Mark.
Thanks, Elsie.
Listen, Mark, I wanted to kind of go a little bit off topic given what's going on out there with, not just COVID, but now we're dealing with superimposed on that as if we don't have enough stress, right? We're dealing with innocent people getting hurt and, Black Lives Matter and dealing with racism. And, this is just adding more stress. I'm just wondering for you, I know you're not CMO, you're CMIO, you're information. How are you dealing with that as a leader? What are your thoughts on how we should go about as physician leaders helping people in our roles?
That's a tough question, and I'm certainly not going to hold myself out there as an expert on racial relationships, but just in the context of what I do know, which is healthcare IT, minorities are underrepresented and women are underrepresented. And I think that lack of diversity hurts us in healthcare, that the diversity of opinion really helps us build systems that would be better, that understand cultures better. And we miss that. And so I think we build for what we know, and that tends to look like who we are. And so I think diversity is really needed in healthcare IT and is not done for whatever the reasons are. The talent pool is certainly out there. It's up to us as leaders to go out there and bring that talent, cultivate that talent, and make sure that we are getting diverse opinions on our leadership teams.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. I totally agree. I also was a Chief Medical Information Officer, and having to deal with research and data and making sure we're including every sector of every population, every different type of person is very important so that we can shape our treatment methods in the right way. I mean, racial issues are everywhere, not just with COVID, but in healthcare and politics and business and jobs, but in research and how we deliver our medications. And so I think at the forefront of any leader in every field needs to have this kind of training and learning biases and dealing with race relations and making sure we're treating people fairly. Thank you so much for that. So I want to know, how did you become a CMIO?
My journey started a long time ago when I started to get an interest in data analytics. I was focusing on quality issues, but I ran a report one day that showed me the time of day my colleagues, primary care doctors, were closing their charts. And 50% of them were closing their charts after 8 p.m. at night. And that bothered me. It really just hit me like, my colleagues are struggling and they can't focus on the patient because they're struggling with this tool that's sucking them away. So I started to devote more time and energy to helping providers become more comfortable with the electronic health record, and that led to eventually a position here at Peninsula Regional. They went live with Epic and they needed some help with making the providers and the nurses too just feel better about the system. And there was a lot that we were able to do, and now I think doctors do get home at a reasonable time. They're not spending all night in their charts, and they can have a life outside and enjoy patient care, and that's important to me. I think I have an impact on the healthcare system by making it better for doctors and nurses.
What another reason why we need more doctors on leadership, because physicians can best understand what physicians are going through, and they can be the best, and if they have the decision-making capabilities, and they can implement changes that can make profound changes in people's lives, physicians' lives, and then decrease the burnout. I love that. That's so awesome, Mark. Can you work in my company too? What are you working on now then these days?
With the COVID crisis, everything got turned upside down, and we had to pivot and launch telehealth services. And CMIOs across the country got thrown into this role. If you didn't already have telehealth up and running, we needed it, and we needed it right away. So I've devoted my efforts to that, again, trying to help my colleagues connect with their patients when those connections are no longer easy or possible. It's difficult to justify bringing in an older, sick patient into an office where they could get exposed to someone else in the waiting room who has COVID. So we try to minimize that, and that's been an exciting project. I also still continue to work on optimizing the electronic health record so that it works for the providers and not the other way around. And a lot of that has to do with making sure that what we build, the way Epic is designed and interfaces with the provider, can be made provider friendly or provider unfriendly. And that is something that we can control as CMIOs.
I love that. So good. Why the podcast, and why CMIO podcast?
Early in my CMIO career, I was looking for material just to help educate myself. I was going through the process of taking the board exam, the informatics boards, and I was getting very, I'll call it ivory tower type education. I was learning statistics and I was learning important things, but they weren't the day-to-day stuff that I needed to know as a CMIO. What do you do when the chief of surgery is mad at you because you put this thing in the electronic health record that he doesn't like and he's in your face? That was not anywhere to be found. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to go out and interview some CMIOs and just build this content and have it available for future generations. And we'll cover all kinds of topics that CMIOs run into. Everything from really techie stuff like what's the benefit of 5G to just really basic human interaction, leadership, how to get ahead, how to move forward in healthcare IT. So I've learned a lot. I get to speak with a whole lot of really bright people.
That's awesome. And you know what? There's not every organization, I think, has a CMIO, and this can be good for chief medical officers or medical directors, senior directors, whatever, even operations. I think what you're doing is tremendous. I haven't seen something like that before, so thank you. How many episodes do you have now?
Coming up on 100. I'm excited.
Wow.
We'll have 100 under the belt within the next month, I think, and that's a nice milestone to have. Originally, when I said, yeah, I think I'll do a podcast, I took out a piece of paper, wrote down 20 topics I thought might be interesting. So to get to 100, that's pretty cool for me. I'm excited about that.
That's amazing. And you know what? You kind of spoke to leadership skills, in this. It sounds like what you are driving at is that there are all these leadership skills that you weren't really taught, and you kind of incorporated that into the CMIO podcast. Mm-hmm. How did you learn your leadership skills?
Through trial and error, and more error than trial, I think. So I always tried to get into leadership positions. I always wanted to get on the committee. You stay on the committee long enough, eventually they nominate you to run the committee. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the leadership positions, but I was not always very good at it, to be honest. When I look in retrospect, I had a mentor in my practice. He was a senior physician who I learned a lot of leadership style from, and that was horrible. He was a tyrant, and that's what I saw, and that's what I picked up on. I figured, oh, leaders are tyrants. So I became a tyrant in my leadership style, and it's taken me years to unlearn some of that, and working with mentors, real mentors, who have pointed out to me at times, hey, you were pretty heavy-handed on that approach. You might want to soften up. I was also a paramedic and a firefighter. And what I learned from leadership there, you get on a scene, you take command, you get control of that car accident where people are screaming and fires are burning, and you get control of that. That doesn't translate very well to a hospital boardroom when you're trying to encourage nursing to look at something your way. You come out and say, I'm going to take command of that. Not so fast. That doesn't work. So those are some of the errors I made. I learned somewhat through reading and courses. Got my MBA. Change management, definitely did learn a lot about change management from reading it and then trying it out. But in the heat of a boardroom, when someone says something that just irritates me, those skills about how to react appropriately in those situations, can't learn that from a book. It's just practice. And usually like taking a needle and jabbing it in your arm somewhere, so you just bite your teeth and don't say anything.
So I think it's the equivalent of changing a habit, whether you're changing your diet or changing your exercise habit or changing your whatever doesn't work for you. It's going to take time, and it takes application and study. If you don't do that, I mean, you can learn business skills and management, marketing, change management from reading a book, but you can't learn these what we call soft skills. What do you call them? You don't call them soft skills. I forgot, Mark.
They're just people skills.
Yeah,
That's
people
what
skills.
I call them. They're people skills. And if you find as a physician that you're not moving in the direction you want, your career's not going where you want, take a look internally and say, is that because of something that I'm doing? Am I not building the network? Am I not getting the relationships that I want? And that may very well help you advance. Rarely is it the technical skills. Yes, I had to add some technical skills to go into health IT. You need to know what you're talking about. That's the easy part. Anyone in healthcare IT will tell you it is 80% people skills, 20% technical in order to get things done in a system.
I totally agree. Are you actually have opportunities in your job to do leadership besides through the CMIO, like directly leading people? Do you have that opportunity right now, Mark?
I do. I have the fortune of coming into a system that didn't have any informatics program. So I get to kind of take the clay and mold it the way I want and create the programs and help develop people. We started, they're called physician builders in Epic's world, where you're taking a provider and giving them more skills in Epic to be able to communicate with analysts at a higher level. We had none. We're going to have 8 by the end of the month. And I've been there less than 2 years. So I'm excited that I'm able to get others excited about the vision I'm presenting for informatics. So that's part of what a leader does. They paint a vision and say, this is what the world could look like. Come follow me. And I'm getting people to do that. And I'm getting an opportunity, like with telehealth, I'm in charge. They've said, Mark, we want you to run with this. And I'm excited about that opportunity to show the system, this is how it can be done. Here's some exciting things we can do. And then working with senior leadership and others about, well, what do you want? Now, here's the menu. What would you like to pick off the menu? And help get creative with them.
That's very good. So, Mark, can you tell the audience how they can learn about your podcast? And maybe there's someone out there who really wants to be interviewed by you.
I am always looking for interesting people to interview. So if you are involved with healthcare leadership, informatics, let me know. CMIO Podcast is the name of the podcast. And the email to reach us is cmiopodcast@gmail.com. So that's easy. Or I'm on LinkedIn, and feel free to reach out to me. I love hearing from other doctors or advanced practitioners who are looking to move into leadership. It's always exciting to help out someone else who's looking to get into the field.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. I'm so glad to have met you through LinkedIn. And I'm also looking for, I'm also looking for people to interview, especially if you have a different point of view or if you have something that you want to share that we haven't covered already. I'm Dr. Ko again from Lead Physician, an online course that's going to be launching this summer. Thank you so much, Mark, for being here. Hope to have you back again soon.
Thanks, Elsie. Appreciate the time.